Good afternoon. I just thought I'd record a quick video with the updates from Q1 on FX. I haven't done one of these for a while. Unfortunately, as usual, I've left it a bit too long, so hopefully I'm going to remember well enough. Like, it's not always, when I've deleted zones and things like that, it's not always clear why I've picked an entry and why it may or may not have worked, but I always like to look back and see what's worked and what hasn't. I think the first couple of months were pretty good. Like, I'm much better when price is ranging like this because you can get lots of entries in both directions. But then when the price starts moving very, very fast, that's when and then with little retracement, then obviously my shorts would be preferred up here, and then it never gets back there. So then it becomes a bit harder. But I think for the most part, we've had some pretty good results. Maybe some of the majors, I think, got blasted in this drop on the dollar. So obviously having crazy drop on the dollar, and very little retracement. So up here, I think I was looking was just a weekly demand, maybe, or a monthly demand here. I was looking for a retracement into this zone, so that was fine. But then obviously very little bounce here. I think there was a monthly zone in here, almost 6 month, 3 month, and you can see there's various levels through here that you would hope for bounces, and it got very little until we got to the yearly, and then obviously very little even off the yearly. And I thought we'd get a lot more of a retracement, and maybe not all the way back up to there, but more of a retracement here. And then with the tariff news last night, obviously price has just fallen off a cliff and left a big gap up here. To be fair, there were heaps of gaps down here, but obviously you can't rely on them filling immediately. There's another one, I think a small one, that got left up the top here. And then there were a whole bunch down here. There were a couple at this level where we bounced. And this now is, I guess, the final one, or the final one's now just been filled. So let me just delete that. So now I guess we're hoping if this to see if this weekly holds. So we did have an annual demand here. So I was like wanting to be bullish on the dollar, or at least very high time frame bullish. It's not a strong annual demand. You can see like it closed above. Firstly, it's testing too quickly. Ideally, you don't want it testing immediately on the next candle, and particularly not only in 3 months into the year. But that doesn't mean it's not going to get a bounce. But secondly, it didn't close above this wick, so while we closed above this red candle, we didn't close significantly higher, i.e. a decent up move. Additionally, we haven't actually tested this one, and this was a zone that I always wanted last year to get tested. So I'm not sure now, having come down this deep, if we are going to go all the way down. Let's have a quick look at the monthly. So yeah, the monthly, obviously, it's much more clearly a lower high, and then possibly, I had a broadening wedge drawn here previously. You can see in my mess of, this is why I have to do these updates, so I can delete some of my lines and zones. I'm going to delete a couple of those levels, I think, because they're not useful anymore. But yeah, this is the area, this green cross is where I wanted tested. In fact, it was, I think I had initially had it here on the weekly, which didn't quite get tested on the test last 2023 now. But actually, ultimately, I kind of wanted down here, so I'm not sure if now we're going to come all the way through this annual zone. But anyway, we're approaching the start of this last up move, so I would expect some sort of a bounce here. But obviously, the world is quite dramatic at the moment with Trump and the tariffs and everything changing. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. But anyway, that's just a quick update on the dollar. It's going to create a new weekly supply by the looks of it this week. And yeah, so then we'll have to see if we get a bounce here, if we get a rejection back in there, or if it does manage to just stay in this range and continue in this sort of 2-3 year range that we've had. I'll look at, I think I'll probably just do the majors in order. In the order like I have them on my charts, which if anyone's following me, they're used to seeing. So Euro, I was biased to the long side down here. I think I did have longs here from last year, but I think I did want lower. But see, this is one of my challenges, and what I've tried to, and I think I've got better at, is setting alerts for swing failures of key levels, which I wasn't doing previously. I was just using supply and demand, because it's quite hard to just to alert thinking there's going to be a swing failure in advance of there being a swing failure and not seeing it. But at least if you know where the levels are, then it makes it a little bit easier. So obviously we had this bounce, I think, slightly before where I wanted, having taken out this low. I was still biased to shorts before that. And then obviously at this point we then reversed, still coming probably back up into a weekly supply here, but then I did manage to get some fairly good long entries. So there's 1, 2, 3 long entries at each of the 3 lows before the big up move. And then, as I said, like, it's like judging these bigger up moves is harder. You know, so this I think was a 4-day or a weekly supply. It is in an annual supply as well as the dollar is, so obviously being predominantly the opposite to the dollar. But here is just given very little retracement. So as I said, you know, the first couple of months to the end of February was pretty good, and then it's been a bit harder since then. And then obviously, like with this retracement, I was hoping for down here ideally, but even if it had come to this 4-hour, but obviously it's bounced just above that, so been a little bit harder. I didn't have any shorts in because there wasn't a clean supply in here anyway, so that was no problem with the breakout. And then obviously the daily breakout has happened just this morning, or overnight for me. So yeah, and now back up in this 2-week supply at the top. So I guess this is relatively a bit higher than the inverse dollar, because the dollar hasn't quite made it to this zone yet in the inverse. So I don't know, but maybe this is going to get another push up into, because I think even previously, yeah, when we came up, I mean, it's difficult because it's an annual supply, and then similarly we had the annual supply up here, which was tested, but we didn't go to a zone inside it. You know, the move at the end of last year didn't take out any highs, so I'm not sure if this now is going to want to go and take out some of these highs. And obviously the zones higher in this annual, the previous annual, that haven't been tested yet. So I need to think that through, but you know, all up, there's pretty good results I think on that, except for that significant breakout that we had on the dollar in when's that, through the earlier end part of March. I think pound is pretty similar. This I was more bullish on, so but again, because this was in a big 3-month demand, and I think again, you know, I probably would have had longs in here from last year which didn't get very high and didn't get up for short retests. Then a long entry there, but just gave a scalp, and then finally did get one off the low down here, and again a retest there. This retest not ideal. Obviously I was a bit too aggressive on that. I think it would have made a daily demand in there perhaps, and also a short here, but again, this is fine, you know, like I haven't got a problem with these. Maybe this was too aggressive. It did give a little scalp, and that's why I sort of say do your own analysis, because you know, it's something like I put these entries in, but I don't necessarily know or have checked in time to know that it's made a daily demand like immediately underneath, so it can give you a little scalp, but then maybe this is just something you go, I'm going to getting out quicker because I think we're going to reverse. And then again, the pound has basically like run back up through all supply. So I think we had a weekly zone or something here, which had a little rejection at the open of the zone, but then pushed higher again, never broke down from there. Then came back up through the last significant high. Similarly here, I think this was a 4-day supply, so worth watching. It has had some activity in there. Before now today moving up into this 2-week supply at the top. So again, now still going back to being potentially short biased. I did have an entry that I put in here, I think maybe late last night when it closed much higher for a long, but obviously it didn't come back for that this morning, unfortunately. So that's the pound. Then euro pound has had some very good and some very bad. So the again, euro pounds I found a little bit challenging because it's got, so let's just look at the bigger picture. It's like I have been bearish on this because it keeps making annual supply, but it is in a tight consolidation, again, weak annual supply, and large zones. So you know, this candle from 2020 made a supply when it closed below in 2021, but then obviously it came virtually all the way back to the top of it in 2022. Then again, we've closed this year again below, but not below the wick of that candle, so it's a weak annual supply. But again, are we going to go back up in top of it? Plus, you know, I mean, this could end up as a chart bull flag pattern and ultimately break out. Similarly, we've got this yearly level from this side that's again holding as support, so just in a very, very tight range. And then similarly, the monthly I think has also been a little bit challenging. So again, it had a monthly supply here, rejected off it, retested, came back lower, then made a monthly supply here again with a close below, but a weak supply, and it obviously now has gone back up very, very high in the zone and has closed above in March. So again, now this is potentially flipped to a monthly demand, but it's competing overall with the annual supply. So again, the challenges that in those very, very tight supply demand structures on the higher time frames. But this, I mean, this hasn't been, you know, there were I've had a couple of poor shorts here when I was thinking we were going to go lower. So we had this great rejection off the annual supply up here. I think I had an alert there. I thought I had some more alerts in here actually, but maybe I forgot to put them in. But I was watching, and it did take obviously a week or two to reject from here. But yeah, I mean, arguably this was the probably the annual supply alert for then that bigger drop. Decent retracement here, and then a decent, very, very good bounce, obviously, if you bought that low there. And I don't buy to hold, so but I'm just looking for scalps. Obviously then these two shorts just got blasted, and then some nice scalps, nice short entries off the retest of this high, and similarly here, and then back into, so then again I was hoping for a drop down into here for the longs, which I didn't get, but managed to get a long entry in yesterday on this. I think it was initially on the 12-hour demand, so it came back a bit deeper, and now today has blasted back up again and through. So I had an alert here today for 12-hour supply, and I said there was an untested one above as well, so those two sort of a joint alert from the today. But yeah, now with this flip of monthly demand, you know, it's possible that now this is going to go back up and take out some highs. So I'll delete all my alerts again later, and then I also want to see where the weekly closes are, because having had this crazy move from Trump and the tariffs last night, I don't know if they're all going to fully retrace today. And then we've got Pound Aussie. Just watching Bitcoin dump out of the corner of my eye as well, and taking until all the alerts are popping up. So Pound Aussie obviously has been very, very strong, because the Aussie dollar has been very weak. So again, I was very bullish on this at the lows. We had monthly demand that was tested. There was a scalp long there, and then monthly demand. So I was bullish. Same here, another short on the long on the retest, and a short on the test here, which I think would have got taken out on that wick. Then just looking, you know, possibly you're going to get a lower high in here. It's worth doing that, but obviously overly bullish, so it's just run through that. Then I've gone more short biased, and you know, I probably with hindsight been a little bit too aggressive, and there was, I did make a mistake here as well. But here, you know, it did give a nice, I think we had an 8-hour supply scalp here. Then I was looking at previous highs, so again these swing failure trades that I've talked about, you know, we had a significant high here and obviously very significant high that we're very close to now, and you can see here what it has done is made a weekly demand, and I missed. So like again the value of checking all the time frames. So while I'm, you know, quite happy with shorting here, shorting for a retest, let's go down to the lower time frame again. I think this was this I think actually was on an 8 or a 12-hour supply in here, but I actually think it would have held, like it didn't take out that high, so this actually was a decent short to get back down to here. I was just unfortunately wanting a bit lower to get back into the longs. Here then again just shorting for the lower high possibility, but it didn't happen. But then again got the swing failure of the high. It's again unable to make a low low. Then this one, like I say, was a bad judgment. You know, I kind of had the short for again looking for another lower high. It looked like it was getting a consolidation, even if it was just going to move down lower into here, but it made the weekly demand. And it also I think had made a 3-day, so thus we got the additional moves up. And then again yesterday, so then the other one, you know, again hoping for the lower high, and this one I knew that was a high risk entry, but it was coming up quite hard, and I thought the Aussie was going to bounce sooner than it did. So, and again now it's come up, so I would have preferred it to take out. Let me just check where those highs are, because there's another one up there. Would have been nice if it had actually taken out this high at that wick, so I don't know if it's going to go back there. Then there's another one higher, and obviously can still just keep going if it wants on the high time frame. But again, all up not bad, but better in that first couple of months of the year, and more messing around towards the end, and with the sort of the consolidation here. Okay, so moving on to the Aussie dollar and equivalent pairs. So what have we got here? So again, yeah, generally some really nice, decent entries on this. It's been, like I say, when there's a sideways range, it's much better for me. I think like towards the beginning it was a bit challenging, so I had the weekly alert go off here. It didn't bounce on it, but then did come back down inside. Then I had a more aggressive short with, hindsight, I have no idea why I did that. That was a bit crazy. Then again, looking for a long for the higher low, which would have got taken out. So that was not quite ready at that stage. And then similarly here, a little bit aggressive on that long, but a very nice long when it came back down closer to the start of the impulse, and a nice re-entry there along with the short in between. And then similarly had some good trades for the last couple of weeks as well. So a couple of shorts on here, the long entry from, when was that, Monday, yesterday? Oh no, sorry, this started this week. This short here was for a 3-day supply. I think I think it wicked through again with the, but I don't necessarily know if anybody would have traded these with the Trump. So I think the wick came up before the drop. And then I did want this to go back down and take out the low into monthly demand. So to be aware, on Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar have now created a monthly demand down here. So again, I'm a bit more bullish on these. It's not a strong monthly demand, but I would hope at least that we get some sort of decent reaction here, possibly taking out those lows. But at least I've set the alert at the start anyway for maybe taking out at least this week's low. And then we've got a clean 4-hour supply here. Whether it's going to work, I'm not sure, because obviously we're just in this sideways structure and we've had this huge drop on the dollar, which may not be fully priced into the Aussie and New Zealand pairs yet. And then up here there's some writing because I think I ran out of alerts, so I had to take things off and just put the comment in so I can copy it back in later. So yeah, 3-day supply, and there's a 2-week at the top, and it's very choppy above. So I don't know if I really want to. I mean, the 2 weeks clean, and I think 3 days clean. But I think when you look down at the 12-hour or the daily, you can see there's a lot of chop. So it could just run through all of this. So again, I need to think that through a little bit more. But all up there, I don't know. I guess what's that, sort of 70% or so successful on Aussie dollar. Aussie CAD, similar situation. Again, I was wanting a little bit lower here. I can't remember if the alert actually went off. No, I think the alert maybe didn't go. I was just wanting a little bit lower in here. And this also is coming from an annual supply. So I think I wasn't, with a second test here, I wanted the swing failure, which we didn't quite get. But I just thought it was more bearish on this. But I need to see if that's going to hold now, because if the Aussie US is stronger and the CAD might get stronger now, they're getting a bit more certainty, and the CAD has been super weak, although I need to look back at the CXY chart. But it's possible that this is going to run higher again. But yeah, okay, two aggressive shorts there, but again, they would have given scalps on the lower time frames. Then some decent shorts, decent longs, so some decent entries there in February. And then again, decent long and short, long. So some really nice scalps through there in the second, or from February onwards, or February and March. So just those first two at the start of January that were less good. And it's just become a bit too choppy down here for me. So I guess this 12-hour demand where we've kind of tested, or just about tested this morning. But I would like to see those lows taken out there, and that's the sort of the black crosses of the swing fail, possible swing fail entries, or possible stop hunts of significant highs or lows. Then Euro Aussie. It's another one. These are a little bit like Pound Aussie, I think. So I was bullish on this from back here. I do remember that from last year. And then it made, I think, 3-month and monthly demand, or maybe it's made a 3-month now, but again, so I was bullish here, so we're looking for long entries a bit too aggressively in January, February. Nice short entry here, that went a bit higher in the zone, and then a really nice long entry, finally getting the low on that 6 month. It's a 6-month demand, that's why I was so bullish. That's a 6-month demand down there for the massive move. So I guess, this is one of my learnings, if we do hit a clean 6-month demand like that, perhaps not put shorts. And to be fair, I put a lot less in than in some situations previously. But these had some, you know, here obviously we could have got, I was hoping for a rejection to get the long, and you can see where I've had previous longs obviously that haven't been tested. And then obviously looking for the possibility of a stop hunt of these highs, but it just broke out. Looking for the possibility of a stop hunt of this high, and again gave a little bit of one, but broke higher. Then was given a better move here with a really nice re-entry, I think on the 4 or 8 hour supply right next to it. Really nice long, short, so again some really nice entries there, or alerts should I say. And then now an alert gone today for just potentially swing failing this high. And you know, I think I said in the comment it might just break out from here. There is no reason for it to particularly reject here other than the fact it's a high, and it might just take it out. So it's not a particularly significant high now. And then there's a big gap if it does go up to the next zone there. So I'll be watching to see if this makes a weekly demand or something at the end of tomorrow, see how we close. New Zealand, I guess, is probably going to be pretty similar. So again, I was more long biased on this, as you can see, but again, possibly slightly too aggressive on some of the entries. So a long here off this weekly demand, but it didn't get much higher. Then a short there. I think again, I was then looking for it to potentially take out this low. You know, it came very close, I think, to taking out this low, and there's a couple of other significant lows. So I was really hoping for a bit lower on this. And probably I'd still like that on this, but again, I need to think it through because now it's got the monthly demand. You know, it's a weak monthly demand. Let me have a quick look at it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's difficult. Now it's got the monthly demand, I would expect a bounce there. So I mean, I guess it can take out those lows, it doesn't have to, but also it doesn't have to do it immediately. So maybe we just need to see the reaction up here. There's got 3-month, 2-month supplies above now. So yeah, so on the long side, again, similar to Aussie, you know, when we got this bigger dip down, it missed it. I had an alert go for this low, but it didn't quite take out the low. And then some nice re-entries there, but again, slightly too aggressive on that. So it's more inclined to stop hunt on this. And again, a couple of nice shorts in there. I want to at least get a little consolidation or some scalps, and this one, decent short before a nice long coming off at the start of this week. And similarly yesterday with the tariff announcements, I think it took out the zone on a wick before giving a drop back down into the 8-hour demand. And is now obviously looking like it wants to take out this high from last week with this 2-week zone. So again, similar to Aussie, again, it's a bit choppy through here, so I probably need to look through this a bit more. And these offset monthly levels could get picked up. Yeah, so that's New Zealand, US, then Euro New Zealand. Again, much like Euro Aussie, so obviously clearly I was bullish at this level, so I think it came very close once, twice, and then finally hit the zone. And then obviously for some reason I'm crazy and still had a short entry in more aggressively on that. I think, you know, that's just me getting sucked into the retail trader thing. Well, it's going down for a few days, it's probably going to go down now into this 2-month demand or something, but I think, you know, it just bounced. It's still, well, this is just a monthly zone and it's just holding the top of the zone. A few nice shorts in here. That one obviously probably would have run higher in the zone. Nice short there, but then far too aggressive here. And then similar to Euro Aussie, looking for a swing fell there, which we didn't get, or there, which we didn't get, and then here we did. So hence why I think it's worth watching. You know, in these cases, you know, they tend to blast so fast up through the zones that you know, it probably wouldn't stop you out anyway if you're at least waiting for some sort of like 4-hour or like, for example, here, retest, decent retest. So I think that was a 4-hour. This one, yeah, so a retest here on the 4-hour or possibly an 8-hour supply there. You know, then you shouldn't get stopped out of these ones unless you're trading too low time frame. Here, and I think a couple of the Euro pairs got me here. They didn't. I think Euro Aussie held for this zone, but then Euro New Zealand EURCAD, I think both like broke this zone on the retest. So again, that's just unavoidable. That's what happens sometimes. It's, you know, it's just taken stops below that daily before moving up. Again, nice short there and nice long entry, and it followed by a short today. So, you know, these are my sort of perfect environments when you can go from long to short to long. And those are the ones I find significantly harder, where you have to be actively trading at much lower time frame to get the But also generally I'm looking for bigger retracements after a big up move like this. Like I don't really want to be longing here, but I guess you can for scalps. If you see something low time frame, there's nothing wrong with that. And then finally on this layout we have dollar Swiss franc. So this is obviously heavily affected because the Swiss franc's quite stable. The dollar Swiss franc is then fairly heavily affected by, not loading now, fairly heavily affected by what the dollar's doing. I think my internet hasn't just suddenly gone out. Everything seems to have paused. No, there we go. Back again. So again, yeah, again, just that period through the middle of March when the price just dropped. And I think that, I mean, to be fair, I think this was actually giving bounces off each of the zones, just not very much and not enough to get back to any short entries. And even here, I actually thought I was going, you know, initially I think I had the weekly or the 5-day up here as possible short re-entries, and then I went more aggressive on the daily and it didn't even get back to that from here, despite I think this was a 3-day and 2-week demand that was here. But again, appropriately bearish at the highs. You know, this is 6-month supply, I can see there, and then, you know, it did take its time and went a bit higher in the zone before dropping, you know, and you can get nice scalps as it's consolidating off these highs. So I think that's why I do sometimes still put in long entries even though we're in supply, because that's when the volatility starts coming in and you can get really nice trades in both directions. Did get a nice short retest on that retest there, and then obviously this was a more aggressive, I think because it was a top, possibly the top of a weekly here, to see if we were going to get another up move, but then it came down lower, did get a little scalp off this entry, did get a little scalp off this entry, then retest here. I think that one failed, looking for the higher low based on the dollar being on yearly demand. And similarly here, this did give a little up move, but again, not enough even to get to my aggressive supply. And now back down in weekly demand today, a little bit choppy through here, and it has left trend line stops below, so slightly ropey there. But again, even if we get some sort of a bounce like this before potentially dropping down, that's a possibility. I think overall also this has yearly supply, so I think that was one of the other things that was throwing me a little bit on the dollar, because the dollar has yearly demand, but then dollar Swiss franc has yearly supply, so it again becomes challenging as to what your bias is, and obviously the Swiss franc can drive this, but I don't follow any of the other Swiss franc pairs, so it makes it a bit more difficult. Anyway, so that's that. Then we move on to the yen pairs. So again, not surprisingly, I haven't actually updated these charts today, so we now kind of seem to be dropping through some zones. The dollar yen, let's start with that. So the yen pairs, again, challenging, because these I think were more challenging because they weren't giving the retests that I wanted. But on the plus side, so you know, dollar yen, we had the short from the monthly supply up here. On the plus side, each of these bounces was actually giving a decent scalp. But I think even then, because this was a monthly demand, so I was then not wanting to short, so this did actually give a nice short entry, but I didn't want to short there because we were, I think, in a monthly. I'm not sure if the monthly is a little bit lower or this line. Yeah, I didn't want to look for shorts in case the monthly suddenly played out for a bigger move. So again, each of the bounces is giving something, but now obviously we're still trucking lower. I had a short here on the weekly supply, which the alert went, but it didn't quite hit the level there. I then reset it in the hope we would get a swing failure from yesterday, but again, didn't get that. However, so I then was looking for the short, so this is a weekly supply here, so I had a short here again, got slightly front run, then I looked for the swing failure there, which we didn't get. I did say only take this if it's a swing failure. And then I had another alert for a short in this 4-hour supply. So it has come like right to the top of it, but again, this one has worked. Then again, long entry here, gave a nice scalp, but didn't get back past, I think it was a daily supply, and I think it swing failed it. Didn't get back up to my ideal entry, and now obviously dropping below. And has some space now to a daily, so there's a daily demand, I think it just alerted early there, it's 2-day demand, and then there's a 6-month level inside for a retest, and then a weekly. So just looking in here what kind of bounce we may get if we get to that level. Delete some of these off now. There was a nice bounce there on the 61 fib, but obviously is now coming lower. So yeah, again, not bad on dollar yen. Like my bias actually was in the right direction, but it just wasn't getting back for my short entries. Euro, so the other yen pairs have been a little bit harder, I think, particularly euro yen and pound yen, because again, looking at the monthly, so what we've had, I think, on both is that we've got a 6 monthly demand. So obviously you want to be bullish unless this 6 monthly gets broken, but it has come down and hit it a couple of times. Obviously it still is potentially, you know, a macro swing failure of previous high. I mean, this does have a history that's higher, but I think, you know, it's taken out this significant high. So now, you know, and also has been going up for 2 years, and then obviously the Bank of Japan has started to make some policy changes. So, you know, again, how much of this could get retraced on the high time frame? Well, there is taking a fair while about it, but you know, this has been going up now since, was that 2020, euro yen and, you know, dollar yen for, I think, solidly for a couple of years. So anyway, yeah, the challenge here was that it made monthly supply, again closed below, but not a strong supply, went very high in it, but again did come back down and close below. I'm not sure if there's also a 3 month, no, there's no 3 month. So there's also a 2 month supply in here. So again, I was a bit wanting to be short biased on this, but again, like similar to the other euro pairs, or euro pound particularly, like it comes very high in the zone and they're weak zones. So excuse me. So let's just have a look at some of these entries. But so again, nice scalps off these. At this point, this was a fail, but I think this made a 3-week demand by a hair up here. There were a couple of these, so I just thought, well, they might be worth an aggressive entry just in case it gets a Monday bounce off the top, because this zone has never got tested at the top. So I think that's what I was thinking there. Then obviously it dropped right back down to ground zero. Nice short entry there, and then I was looking for a long for the high low, and I think it gave a bit of a scalp, but eventually came down and took out that low. Similarly here, again, a nice scalp short off here, but it may have been too fast, I'm not sure. But then obviously didn't make a lower low. And again, nice shorts, nice long, nice short. So some nice entries there again towards throughout March. So I guess what I'm seeing here, I think, is that the majors were better when they were ranging at the start of the year. Then we had some more of the movement on the cross pairs, and that's when cross pairs came a little bit harder. And in this case, you know, like, that was just an aggressive. I didn't take many entries in there or place many entries. And then the cross pairs became easier when the majors became harder because they broke out. So that's kind of an interesting thought. I'll have to think about that a little bit more to see. Yeah, so when I start seeing, I guess, my bias change or something's trending strongly, then maybe it's better to switch to, you know, if that's the majors, I switch to looking at the cross pairs more, or being more focused on supply and demand on the cross pairs and vice versa. So yeah, like I said, pound yen the same. You know, it's got this giant 2 monthly supply in here. It's come, you know, I think it probably made it here. It rejected there, but again didn't make a lower low, and it's now come up higher inside it. So this probably was a too aggressive long entry there, or maybe it was on a higher time frame, I'm not sure, but didn't get very far. And again, probably a bit mixed in my bias here, left it alone, and then nice short, and then I think, yeah, like I say, I've just been indecisive on this because of the 6 month demand. I think it's a 6 month demand, yeah, 6 month demand, but it's already back there. And obviously this larger just consolidation, but yet with the 2 month supply. So again, didn't have many entries through here. There wasn't anything clean. Everything had already been tested. And then very nice short there from last week. And a follow-up short from yesterday. I think it looks like it took a wick through that zone a little bit, but didn't take out the high. And now is coming back down into the next possible long entry. Although now I look at that, I'm thinking, higher time frame, I'm not sure about that. And then finally Aussie yen, which again, so this I alerted here that my bias was short off this 2 month supply, and it really has just been going down since then. So that was pretty nice. And again, short bias, but Did go higher after that last one for the retest up there. I think at this point, again, this is the challenge. Like, I think at this point I had that alert and was thinking, you know, is this going to take another move higher? And again, that's always the challenge. It's like, is this the final high, or is this, you know, now it's made a higher low here? Is this, and it's not, you know, it's gone back through the local structure here, but then again, it's still made a lower high. And this is another one similar to, I think, what was that, Euro Yen, where I had an alert for a possible, I think it made it a 3-week demand or something there, a weekly demand, or maybe even the 2-day there, I'm not sure. But again, I was just a bit too aggressive on that, so dropped back through. Nice long there. Again, this short, possibly a little aggressive. I'm not sure if it was on a higher time frame, but then ran through a bit, but then again got the re-entry. So what you're really looking for is the re-entries, you know, like when you have, and this is what I'm possibly guilty of missing a little bit because I'm just placing entries quickly and not necessarily doing full analysis every time. But, you know, if you have a short entry here, if that's a 2-month supply, then really, yeah, I should have been looking for a short on a retest of that level, much like I did here. And then again, I had an alert go for the low here, there was an hourly and then a 2-month level inside, didn't quite hit the level. So obviously looks like it's heading back down that way again now, but I'm not sure. I think I didn't really want to reset the alert on that now. It wasn't something I was overly confident of anyway, but I don't know now, you know, is this going to run all the way down to the 2-month? But still, again, still in the bigger 6-month demand, so it makes it harder. And yeah, again, like yesterday, short entry on 12-hour supply, and theirs worked quite nicely. And this was an entry for weekly demand, so what it did make a weekly demand last week, but again came back to test it too quickly and has ended up running through it. Like, it looked provisionally like it might give a swing failure off the bottom of the zone there, but then obviously, like I say, has rejected the high for a lower high again. So yeah, that's the yen pairs. Again, all up, not too bad, except for a couple of the more aggressive ones. So I guess my lesson is don't be too aggressive. But I guess I have seen some things break out when they've done that, so it's hard. Then on to dollar CAD. So it's been a little better. So I had the challenge last year, I think, when we had this massive up move, that obviously lots of shorts were running through and it wasn't coming back for any longs. It became a nice consolidation through here. I think, yeah, this was probably one of my worst performers. I think again here, I was trying to, I think it had made a weekly demand. I think I did say this is, you know, it's just to see if you get the immediate retest, because I knew I just had the swing fail of the high. But then when it was hindsight, I look back and I just think, well, that was stupid. But then I guess if it had gone up from there, I would have gone, ha, I was right. But anyway, it did plough straight back through there, I think, on the Monday, having just created it on the Friday, then it just went straight back through on the Monday. Again here, short entry just gave a bit of a scalp, but it was ready to break out. This was very nice, if anybody got the short entry on that swing failure up there, that would have been great. And then also I had a long going up into that. Then obviously it came down very hard. So that long entry failed, broke structure, nice long there, a little bit too aggressive on the short here. I think this again probably was on this zone or was on the bigger weekly, I'm not sure, but probably was on the 8-hour supply in here, so again would have got taken out. And my long entry there, I think, got very slightly front run, but would have been decent if you'd managed to get in on a lower time frame after the alert went. And then very sadly, I had an alert here for a short that I put yesterday in the hope that this would get a test on the Trump news, but unfortunately didn't quite make it. So I'm not sure, I think I might have to go and delete that now. And now I've just had a long entry go for this 2-week demand down here. But again, it's really a question of whether the dollar's going to hold or whether it still wants to go lower. I have said on this alert that it's risky because there is a lot of chop here and it could go through and take out all these trendline stops if it wants. And it's got monthly and 3-monthly demand a lot below, but now it's been let loose. I'm not sure if that momentum is just going to keep it traveling. Hide my watch list. What else we got? EUROCAD. So again, much like EURUSD and Euro New Zealand, I have fewer entries, but again I was bullish down here. So a nice short there, but not so well. A long would have given you a long for scalp up to here, but then obviously came back lower, so a short there would have failed. Then I think again, with the breakout, the shorts got blasted. So this again gave a bit of a consolidation, so at least enough time to either scalp it or get out. And then looking for the swing fail, which we didn't get, and then possibly, I think it was there's a 3 month supply here. So while I've put the cross there, obviously this 3 month is probably a massive zone. Similarly here, you know, this is probably, I think, a 2 month supply alert, and it's just gone higher inside. As I said, I think on Euro New Zealand, you know, this was one of the ones that had daily demand, and it just went through it, but not down properly into 4 hour demand below. And again, I was looking for the short in here. I'm not sure if that went last night or no, it's probably gone today. Possible short off this daily supply now. And failing that, we've got some significant highs above. So yeah, fewer entries on this. And I think I was just conscious on this. It wasn't as clean. And, you know, these are, let's show you the monthly, I guess. Yeah, these was a bit of chop through here, and I think the lower time frames, I haven't got any dailies or anything like that drawn in, so I'm guessing the lower time frames aren't very clean through here, hence why it has pushed a bit higher. And then yeah, some real significant highs up here. And this, I feel like this has a yearly demand as well. No, it doesn't, but maybe a 6 month. Yeah, so I hope my drawing so you can see. Yeah, so it had a 6 month demand here and has tested off it again. You know, that's what propelled this massive move up, but it really took its time doing it, I think. So that's EUROCAD, like again, 70% or so, so not too bad. Pound CAD, I think I did leave alone predominantly this quarter because it was becoming difficult. So again, when things go widely into a range like this, like, well, again, you then need to be a bit of a support resistance trader rather than a supply demand trader. Because if it's not giving you decent zones, and also because I don't like testing, alerting zones, unless they're monthlies, I don't really like alerting zones for a second test. So, you know, this, so for example here, I probably would have had that one, but then I wouldn't have alerted this again. But anyway, yeah, at this point in time, obviously we've got a monthly demand, it tested into here. I don't know if I missed that or if maybe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe that monthly was confirmed later, but again, we've got a bigger breakout. And now back up in monthly supply. Yeah, again, it's like, I think this alert was probably for the monthly and it's just gone higher inside it, and it's just giving some low time frame scalps here. So I did get a short off, I think there was a 12 hour supply there to start with, which then converted into a daily, so it's then rejected again. Similarly here, this long off the daily demand, just slightly front ran. But yeah, I find pound CAD a little bit messy. So here, and again, this alert was the 3 day supply, so arguably it's still in progress, it's still holding. So I guess we'll see what we get. And then I was just trying not to add too much as the 3 day, too much later last night, because things are choppy and they're kind of flipping supply and demand at their leisure at the moment. So that is pound CAD, and then CAD yen, the final CAD pair. Again, and similarly challenging to all the other yen pairs, it's in this big 6 month demand. And so yeah, that I got the sort of 6 month demand retest there, and a couple of more aggressive long entries there, and some decent, so these are decent entries here for long scalps and shorts if you held them. Yeah, and then again, I haven't done much through here because I think I was like very unsure on bias. You know, it's now made a 3 month supply. Sorry, I just lost my mouse. It's now made a 3 month supply in here. And, you know, I had the alert for weekly, and then I think I set a new alert for 3. I think it just rejected just before that weekly as well. And I set a new alert for the 3 month, which I was hoping this 3 day would get a push up to, but it's like not looking very likely at this point. But yeah, I want to see a little bit more on this play out. I think it was coming off, yeah, so it was coming off a 2 month supply anyway, which is why I was short biased up here. And then made a new monthly, which it hasn't tested here, and now this new 3 monthly. So I'm probably more short biased on this now with the 3 monthly supply, but then we have this 6 month demand, and then apparently there's a yearly level there as well. So, but just because it has a 6 month demand, it doesn't mean it can't come a lot lower in the zone. Obviously, you can see how big the zone is. It could come all the way down to here and still respect it. Additionally, we also left this gap here, so it hasn't even tested this 2 months down there. So, you know, at some point things do have to reverse. So while I don't want to be bearish on a 6 month demand, I just want to be conscious we're in it, but obviously it can reverse if it wants to, and it can take it out. So have a quick look at the 6 month view. Yeah, so in fact, the wick where after the big dump was at the end of last year, did actually go through the initial 6 months. So again, if we get a close back under that sort of 106 level, this is potentially going to flip a 6 month supply. And on the bigger picture, it's this giant range. Let me just look at the yearly. Yeah, with an untested yearly all the way down here. So yes, it can hold the bounce off the top here, can hold the 6 month demand that it's in here. You'd probably like to see a little bit of an up move there before a bigger drop. Remember, this is on the 6 month chart, so I might be dead by the time it actually gives that structure and retest. But again, you can see here, I guess this would have had at least a 2 month demand, probably a 3 month demand, but eventually it runs back through it and runs all the way down again. So if we can get continued weakness on the CAD and coupled with strength on the yen, there is no reason this can't just drop significantly lower. Anyway, that's the Canadian dollar pairs. At least now I'm getting to the point I'm like, okay, I just need to clear some of these crosses off the chart so I can check my bias and see what I think is going to happen. Okay, then I'll do gold and silver, and then finally I'll do the indices, and then this is going to be like about an hour. So finally it looks like we're getting a drop today on gold and silver. And this is just typical FX or gold trading. Made a daily demand here with the close above a week daily demand. Did bounce off it first thing this morning, because I commented on that as one of the first things I looked at when I woke up. So it did bounce off it to make the new high here, but then has obviously just blasted straight back through it now. So I haven't looked at anything really aggressive on gold for a while, because obviously we've still got this massive uptrend. I occasionally throw in some shorts just in case, just in case we got the lower high here. This gave a little scalp down there, and I managed to get at least one long entry on gold. But other than that, it rarely retests, and then the one time it does, here would have given a bit of a scalp, then it's coming, in this case it swing failed this daily zone. So the problem is, like, when it does get the retest, by that time it's tended to be breaking down. A couple of shorts in here, again looking for the possibility of a lower high there. I think I would have said that was a high risk, and obviously then it's just run straight through it. So interesting now, obviously now it's having quite a strong drop, so it's going to possibly create daily supply. And I think I'll probably want to wait a little bit and see how NFP tomorrow plays out across the market. Makes a daily supply up here. Again, I might look for shorts now it's got that takeout, but again, it's coming back into 3-day demand here. So, that's still, we've got this up structure, and this 3-day can still play out for a new high if it wants, so as I said, like, we like to trade the ranges, and unfortunately gold is just so strong that quite often it just goes straight back through. But obviously, what you'd hope is, is that, at least you get something like this before the breakout. But it's hard to know. So similar to here, like, once it's made a daily supply, it does give a rejection off it, but then just in this case doesn't make a lower low, it gives a bit of scalp. But gold, you really need to be trading the lower time frames recently. Well, I say recently, but the past couple of years now. Silver's an interesting one. So silver has been better. Like, was much more able to get longs and shorts on this. And this is interesting. I kind of wanted to see how this played out. I had an alert here to see if it just took out that high rather than the all-time high, because not the all-time high, sorry, 2024 high. Because this does happen at times where you see it take out just one high but not the previous. So, and obviously that has worked there, so I did reset the alert for another swing failure if it went higher. Got a nice short re-entry immediately after. Then it did give a long scalp off there, but then came lower. And then I think there was a daily, there was an 8-hour demand again for the possible higher low here, and now we're just blasting back down now we're in 2-week demand here. Having really, again, just got that momentum. This does have 3-month demand there, so I will alert. That would be the next possible zone if this does run. I think I said in the alert for this, that it is a 2-weekly zone, but it could run, it does have 1 month and 3-month demand inside, or starting inside. And that does happen sometimes if you've got untested zones in time zones. You can find that, you know, it won't get that bounce that you would want off the top of the zone, and it runs deeper inside it to get to the more significant levels, because those are more what people are looking at. The other issue here is that this might create a weekly supply, so again we need to see what kind of bounce we get. But again, bouncing off a monthly or a 3-monthly zone, I don't know, you know, maybe I'd still want a short weekly supply, but it becomes significantly more risky because obviously you're in a much higher time frame support. But yeah, all up on silver has not been bad. Like, I know I was, again, made comments that I was bullish down here, you know, the two month demand level. So then I wasn't looking for more aggressive shorts on this, which is makes a nice change. Did get a short there, and then got a long re-entry, and then a second long re-entry which would have got taken out, unfortunately, and then a couple of really nice long re-entries back on this 5-day demand here. Some shorts here, but again, higher risk. I think that one, yeah, that one would have been based on this, so it's obviously run through that to the next zone up there, but did give a decent rejection there. Higher low here, obviously didn't give much, and has run back through it, back down to this support again here. And again, I think I was a little more indecisive at this point, you know, thinking, are we going to get more of a range here? So I was still starting to look more at possibilities of shorts, so that one would have given a little scalp, but not much. Probably I would have been hoping for a short there, just down into the 4-hour demand just below, but again didn't get that entry. And then similarly here, the shorts have worked out well, at least for scalps. So they take a little time in consolidation, pushing a little bit higher. And then, as I said, yeah, that stop hunt there. And then a couple of longs getting blasted now with this momentum downward that we're getting. So again, I don't know, again, we'll see if we do make the weekly supply in there, but you know, obviously this is looking like it's going to probably come down into there now. If it makes weekly supply, we'll see. But if we do come down into here, you know, maybe we'll just get a rejection off the weekly, but I would expect, you know, the monthly and 3-monthly demand are clean to be taking out that high. But again, we just trade zones as and when they hit, so I need to see first, you know, the first step in this is to see if this monthly and 3-monthly demand hold here. Possibly we can go back and take out these lows, so I have to keep an eye on that. Yeah. And then again, I need to think through the bigger picture as well, because I think the other thing with silver, again, from a very high time frame perspective, I'm pretty sure this whole thing is in 6-month supply, but also obviously it's rejected this monthly supply at the highs. Very clean rejection of that, you know, didn't even go up for any of these prior highs. To take out any of the significant prior highs, so just clean rejection of monthly supply. So I need to think a little bit about the bigger picture and whether this is yeah, so you can see there's that 6-monthly supply there, and it got a rejection here off it, but it's gone much higher in it, but it's still holding it for now. So this is still, you know, potentially a retracement of this last down move, although then this is a retracement of the bigger up move. So you know, in a perfect world, I would like to see this probably go back to 23 and test that 6-month demand, but you don't always get what you wish for. It's quite choppy when you look at it like this, though. Anyway, that's that. And then finally, the indices, which I think have had their own unique challenges. These are always, I guess, my weakest, and I think I've said before, I always say I'm going to stop doing alerts on the indices, but then never do. And I don't tend to run through them in as much detail as everything else, because like predominantly they can be the same, but I think I'll just show them quickly. So I think, again, at least the bigger picture on these, you know, this is all-time highs, so you can't necessarily judge. So I think I was trying to be less short bias unless I saw something significant. Obviously nice long entry there, too aggressive on the short entry. I think would have been hoping for it to get back down into these weekly demands. Very nice short entry, got the lower high off there, although at this point I think it did make a 3-day demand, and I thought maybe it was going to take out the high, but actually eventually played out. And then the challenge we've had on these indices is that they have come down quite hard. And while I think, you know, I think they'll all have similar like monthly demand, and then a 2-week unsided, and a 2-week and a 3-week, and you know, everything's choppy. So in the case of Dow, it did get a bit of a bounce there, and then finally gave a decent bounce on the 3-week, I think, down here. But obviously now, on this made monthly supply. So unfortunately this alert, so I did have an alert there for the monthly supply. Unfortunately it went to my crypto channel by mistake, and I think by the time I forwarded it to the FX channel, it probably would have been a bit lower down, so I don't know if anybody really got that in there. But what was really nice yesterday was the confluence, and I always say the confluence on these is critical, that S&P had hit my 3-day, that was the first to hit my 3-day alert. Then NASDAQ hit as well, but the Dow and Russell didn't hit until later, until the Trump speech. And I said that, I was only talking about it in my crypto channel, I probably should have put it in the FX channel, but that I was, comfortable with looking for shorts from where S&P and US were, but I wanted US 2000 Russell and the Dow a little bit higher still. So what we got then, I think, was these drops just before the news, or maybe actually I'm not sure. Maybe yeah. So we got these small drops that you can see here just before the news, and then the news wicked it up, took people out before the drop. But when that wick up happened, we then ended up with the confluence on Dow and Russell, so it ended up pretty nice. So then S&P, very similar to the Dow, I think I was trying to be a bit more long biased on this. I did have a couple of long entries in there, which was nice. Then obviously this one, that's finally when it rolled over. Did get a nice short off a low time frame on the retest there, and a nice short re-entry. Then similarly the long re-entries, it's just kind of running through before finally bouncing on this 3-week level. Nice scalp long off Monday's low, and then, like I say, back up into this 3-day supply. This also now has a monthly supply up here, so yeah, again, I need to think these through now as to see if they're going to drop down into this monthly zone below. Now they have actually, so they already have broken weekly structures, or they've made weekly supplies, not necessarily broken weekly demands, but now have closed below and broken monthly demands. So I need to see and again think through the trends on these. Nasdaq similar. So again, I think similar to S&P, managed to get a couple of aggressive longs near the top. Then was looking for a short off this high, hoping for a lower high, and again would have said it was high risk, and it did eventually come back and take out that high. Not sure I normally have a line there. And unfortunately didn't really give a decent retest. I can't remember what that was. I think I said that I think it did make a weekly demand here, but I think I said only take this if it hasn't swing failed the high on the weekly. And I think it had swing failed the high, so that would have been like a no trade. A little short scalp there that didn't get very far. And then similar with the longs here, that it's just been pushing. Did give scalps off with each of these zones, but again, I think these are reliably, the US indices are reliable on the 12 and 8 hours. So if they don't get past the most immediate 12 or 8 hour supply, then the chances are then they're probably going to go back lower on these little scalp bounces. And again, nice entry from yesterday on the 12-hour demand, followed by a short on weekly supply. So they all also made weekly supply this week. Well, not all of them, the Dow didn't, but the Dow had the monthly, which is one step better. I'll do Russell before going to the other countries. So again, Russell I've been was really hoping for shorts on this, but it just hasn't given me them. And I was long biased to some extent because we had this 3-month demand down here. I don't know if it's flipped to 3 months now. For some reason I've got a floating. Oh yeah, so now this has flipped to 3 months supply. So that's not ideal at all. It's not, but it's actually no. That's where I left the zone is. So the challenge on this, so I say it's flipped to 3 month supply by closing below this green candle, but it's still in, from a wick perspective, that's still in the 3 month demand, which is still this whole red candle. But again, there's another 3 months down here that hasn't been tested, so now I would just be waiting for longs down in this 3 month zone. The annoying thing with this is I think it did make 1 month, 2 month supply above, but unfortunately didn't come back and test it. So that's what I was really hoping for, the test in there before the drop, but I think it tested very, very close to it, but didn't quite hit my alert just on that candle and the starting of the March candle. So then again on this, long in there, again, didn't give very much. So this was just a bit messy, longs and shorts, and I think, with hindsight, I shouldn't really have traded when it was so tightly in there. But I think it was making weekly zones, but obviously they weren't strong weekly zones because they weren't getting very far. Did get a nice short off the final retest here, but then obviously, I don't know if he would have held that. But yeah, just hasn't given me the retest since then. And then the longs, yeah, again, like I say, I had the 3-month demand there, which just gave very little bounce. I thought at least that might get it back up into the 2-month supply, but no. Then another bounce a bit deeper on another 3-month inside it. And then it finally did give a bit of a retracement, but again, not very much at all. And I'm not sure, maybe Russell's more affected by the tariffs because it's small companies. So I'm not sure. I need to think about the impact of the tariffs on the American companies. And yeah, so we now got this 2-3-month demand and these kind of the almost equal lows down here. So I would probably expect this to be going a bit lower. And then finally we've got Japan, EU, Aussie and FTSE. So this is just hit. So I've got this was a 6-month level retest and 12-hour demand. The alert went for that this morning. Take out that level. Again, this was sort of a challenging one. It was in this consolidation. That with hindsight was a very clear swing failure, but I really wanted it to get up into this daily supply before the drop. Did, however, manage to get short once the drop had happened, after this swing failure. This, I think, again, would have been a weekly supply, but just didn't work. Then for ages on the lows, why I don't really have any longs is because for ages I was waiting for this 5-day demand, but unfortunately after so much consolidation, when it did get back there, obviously by then it had created a monthly supply. Similarly from the short side, I think 26th of March, I think my alert, oh yeah, so now we've got a 3-month supply here, but we had a 2-month supply above, so I think my alert was just very slightly higher on this retest here. So this has rejected the 3-month level, but my alert was just slightly above it, so that's extremely annoying. Yeah, again, hasn't given me any retests. I was looking for the possibility of a higher low here to go back for that 3-month supply, but again, just hasn't wanted to do that at all. So now obviously again has got that quite strong momentum down, but back on this 6-month demand. So I guess we'll see if that gets a play out and goes back to take out this consolidation as a kind of manipulation move before another move up. I'm not sure also about the link between J225 and the yen. I'm not sure if I should look at that against the JXY to see if it does counter or follow the strength of the yen. Because I think, but again, it might not be consistent because I think people say the US indices should be inverse to the dollar, but they are on and off, but they're not consistently. That's not consistently the case. So EU stocks, nice long from down here, and then obviously we had this huge breakout. So I was looking for shorts to get another potential lower high here, and even a breakdown there, but then confoundingly it just pumped. Didn't look for any shorts on the initial pump. It wasn't given it was an all-time high. I did actually have this drawn in as a 161 fib, so I could have alerted that, but didn't, because I think I've seen the US indices that didn't work at all, but actually it's worked quite well on EU, or maybe it's just coincidence. Then I had a short entry on this 5-day supply in here, and it took a few days to do it, but it has worked out quite nicely on that. So again, that's the patience of waiting for the retest. It's now made a weekly supply, or 2 weekly supplies in fact, but again hasn't gone back to test them, and a possible swing fail and then a retest of this breakout level. It could hold here as support, but my preference would be monthly demand a little bit lower on this as well. I gave a nice long entry on daily demand in the middle there, and then I had another entry here on 3-day demand, which again gave a bounce, but unfortunately not enough to get back up to any short entries. Aussie again was more painful because it kind of just broke out, so it was really choppy, so I kind of left it alone to some extent. I had a couple of long entries, a long, short, long there when I was, I don't know, getting into it for some reason. A long entry there and a short. So we had, did give some nice scalps through here, but again didn't get very high after the last long entry. And I think I was kind of bullish on this maybe because of this 3-month demand. But I don't know if I am. Obviously now it's come down through all of this, so I'm probably not anymore. I mean, maybe this was actually would have been a monthly demand, so that's probably flipped monthly demand to supply now. So again, now I'm probably more bearish, but again, need to think it through because we're back in this 3-month demand. But yeah, I would look for shorts if we get back up to that monthly supply. I think, yeah, I mean, I had the alert here for the 3-month zone, but obviously it's come quite deep down inside it. Didn't manage to get a retest on that because I had it at this level and we didn't come back there. And it also, again, hasn't really given me the short, so this is just a bit messy. So I did give a bit of a scalp off that 12-hour this morning. Just need to see if it holds a higher low here. If it is in the 3-month and assuming it hasn't been tested already, then I'm probably still bullish on this. But now with monthly supply, becomes harder. And then finally we have FTSE. So again, nothing too bad on this. I had a long here, I was bullish for that breakout, another long re-entry in there, which you can just hiding underneath that zone. Maybe delete that, you can see that long re-entry there. Then looking for a possible short here. So I think at this point in time, I was wondering if we were going to get a deviation of this high and fall back into the range. So I thought it was worth looking for a short more aggressively, but obviously it got taken out, so then I looked for the long. So again, just some nice entries on this actually, some nice longs through here for the bounces, and then the shorts obviously slightly less reliable, a couple that worked. This one slightly less reliable because I'm shorting a bigger uptrend. And now again on this we've got a 2-month demand a little bit below, and then a monthly and 3-monthly inside that. So just need to see what reactions these monthly get. So I think overarching, in the indices, like when we talk about, if there's going to be a recession or something, I think I just need to see some significant demand broken. But I think, I don't know, I guess when you look back, let me look back and see if there's enough history on this. Like I need to look back at the times there were recessions. So global financial crisis is before on the chart. This is the COVID drop. So you can't even really say, so you could say this is a 3-month close, a really negative 3-month close, but it's come straight back up since then. So I don't know, maybe obviously the 3 months are too high it's too high a time frame to assume we're going to have a recession. But I guess COVID you can't really count as a recession. Recession would be an extended period of down. So I need to look more at some of the history and probably on the US indices that have more history on their charts to see if if we're going to get an extended 5 or 10 year downtrend. That is possible. I mean, when I look back after the COVID drop, so many of these didn't test back here, and I guess they don't have to, but it is possible we run a longer down move. Excuse me. Probably a good time to finish up now, given my voice is starting to go, and I wanted to do a crypto stream a bit later as well. Also, just one thing of note, just be aware, most of the indices have an annual demand. So yeah, again, I think in some cases they tested and in some they didn't. But for example, this on S&P, I mean, yeah, this didn't really, it's got a test from this prior year candle, but the previous candle hadn't closed over. So yeah, while it's a significant drop to get all the way back down there, I'm not going to assume this is going to break, or that we're going to go to zero. That's still a fairly significant drop from the high. Let me just measure it quickly. So if the high went back down there, that's a 22% drop on S&P. So but we're already kind of halfway there. So yes, it's entirely possible things come all the way back down here. And I think I did talk about this in one of my previous streams as well, because I cover this a little bit when I do the crypto streams, that I think the last retracement on this but went to the 50% fib, and I think NASDAQ went to the 61%, and they line up quite nicely with where these annual zones are. But yeah, let's just hope it gives us some nice trades in between, rather than this type of price action where it just doesn't give you any weekly retest to get back in on with confidence. So we shall see. So hopefully this down will give us weekly, we've got a weekly retest there. So yeah, let's see if we'll follow up we get from that. Anyway, I think that is everything. I hope that's useful. So yeah, you can see So I guess the key takeaways and observations were that obviously the ones that haven't worked are when we get these very strong trending price situations, but I will consider the fact that when we get a breakdown, it's possibly it's hard to know. That's the thing. It's only, while it looks big, it's only 3 days of big red candles and then a few more days of sideways. So it may not be easier said than done, but maybe I think if I feel like the majors are hitting major supply or demand, then I need to start looking at the crosses a bit more, because those are when the cross supply and demand seem to work better, because the majors start to trend, and then vice versa, when the crosses are hitting major supply or demand and looking like they are going to do bigger reversals, maybe that's the time then to trade the ranges, to scalp the ranges on the majors, because it just becomes hard to get in when you have these big moves. And yeah, so on the dollar, we just need to see what's going to happen. Big annual demand, we really like to see it bounce off here, and then just want to see what strength we get, if it's going to be if the annual is actually going to play out, if it's a weak annual demand, or whether it's actually going to just not really care and play out the broadening wedge, potentially going back to this missed annual retest down here. But in the short term, at least, I hope we're going to get a bounce off this weekly demand that we're coming up to now. Anyway, yeah, so if you're watching this for the first time, these alerts are all free on my Twitter and on my Telegram channel, which is Elisa's FX Analysis, I believe it's called, and the link will be in the description of the video. So yeah, and you'll get, let me show you quickly, let me show what you get in the channel. So Elisa's FX Analysis, so you get alerts that just tell you when the price is hitting key zones. Sometimes I write a bit of a comment, but most of the time it's just telling you it's hitting a zone, and you need to watch that zone for the possibility of a trade reversing off that zone. Yeah, so, and any questions, please give me a shout. There's also a chat associated with Elisa's FX chat that you can join, so we don't have any activity in there at the moment, but feel free to stop in and ask any questions that you want to ask, and or join my crypto channels. And have a good afternoon.